Everybody, hello, hey, another day. Another day greets us. Hey, all right, good, right? Good. Real quick. Look at that. Okay, hey, it's called balance. Oh my God. Yeah, and Stanley is still missing. Okay, but I do have now. The reason why the candles aren't lit, guys, is because I have my spirit guys out looking for them. So I don't want to light the candles, because they got to do their job, right? So they're checking the usual spots. See, this isn't the first time that Stanley got loose. No. I made that mistake before. I just keep making the same mistake over and over again. No, but they'll find him. They'll find him eventually. I hope. Yeah, because if they don't, oh my God. Well, that's a whole other story. We don't want to go there yet. Hopefully not. All right. We'll see, though. We'll see. But real quick, before I get into what I want to talk about, which is going to be, where am I? Another theme. And that's the last one I'm going to do because, we could do themes all day. You know what I mean? There's so many themes throughout this case, and we could do one every hour. But one more main one that I think is present. One more main one. You guys already know what I'm talking about. We'll get there. But real quick, though, going back to real quick, I want to revisit the memorial service letters. Yeah. I have to go back and watch that again. But, do you guys remember hearing any remorse in those letters? Any type of remorse, like for my behavior? Or no, I should say my inactions. Like, I didn't hear anything like that. I didn't hear anything about feeling guilty or like feeling bad about, I don't know, calling 911 like 8 hours later. I didn't hear anything about that. Nothing. No guilt. Like, now again, I'm not saying, look, if those two had nothing to do with it, okay, that if they didn't have anything to do with what happened in that house, okay, I would imagine they would feel guilty. I would imagine that, right? If they're not psychopaths. But, yeah, I didn't hear any of that coming out of those letters, nothing. Maybe I missed it. Did you guys hear anything about, whoever you're talking about, like whatever letters addressing which roommate, right? You should hear something like, and guys, I love you all, whatever. But then you should hear something like, but, and I feel really horrible, like I feel really bad. Not just for what happened. I feel bad though, because like, I don't know. I would express some type of remorse for myself, because I didn't do anything, like properly, like throughout that whole period of time of what happened. I didn't do anything right. I'd feel guilty about that. Like not anything right at all, which makes me wonder. That's the problem with this case. And that's the problem with this case, is that people should be doing the right things, and they're not. They're not. And it's making you question their behavior. And that's the problem. That is the biggest problem. Well, one of the biggest problems with this case is people aren't doing the right things that they should be doing. And that's part of the theme here. Why is that? Why you gotta right? Why is that? Why aren't people doing the rational thing? It's weird. So weird. I don't get it. Anyway, that's part of the theme, though. It's part of the theme. That's not the theme, but it's part of it. The theme, again, which I was going to get to last night, but I became so incoherent that it wouldn't have been, believe me, it wouldn't have been pretty. Okay? But anyway. The theme, though, is over-exaggeration. That's what I'm saying. That's what we see throughout this case, too, is this theme of over-exaggerating stuff. Over-exaggeration. That's in my behavior. It's in my behavior. And that's also not in what I'm doing. And I want you to think about this too. So it's overt in my behavior. Over-exaggeration. That's overt in behavior. You can see that. It comes out in words and it comes out in our actions. That's easy. But it's also in what we don't do that's over-exaggerated too. And I want you to think about this and see if it makes sense with you. See, I'm trying to, as I'm going through this, I'm keeping you guys in mind as the structure. right? So I'm thinking to myself, well, what would the garden think about this line of reasoning? That's the thing. That's why you're here, right? And that's why you're integral to this. Like without you, there's no channel. Remember. So anyway, but does this make sense as I'm going through this? That's always the overarching whatever. That's the always the main theme. But you don't know it because I don't tell you that. But anyway, yeah. So does this make sense? What I'm going to go through. So there's this over exaggeration of stuff of inaction, which is over exaggerated too, which stands out, right? This stuff stands out like a beacon. And the judge doesn't help that either with some of the stuff he wrote in his orders. Okay? And that's, see, the judge is the judge, like, there's certain pieces of information here, that are just by themselves. And so you got to be careful again with that because there's no corroboration. However, stuff like what the judge has written in his, well, specifically the order I'm thinking about is the order with his the text messaging and all that when he's playing psychologist. Yeah, that's the order I'm thinking about with this. But that's part of it. I'll get there. I might show you that too. I should show you that. But you guys already know this. You do. This is not anything new that you haven't seen. So again, I'm not presenting anything as some big major fucking bomb because it's not. It's not. But it's just something that I want to go through. That's all. And I want to see what you guys think about it. All right? All right. So I'm going to try to enumerate this as best I can. So I'm going to start with the most obvious. And I feel this is the most obvious one. Well, there's a lot of ones that are obvious, but I feel this one is probably the most obvious, and it's the one that you guys already know about. And it's the one we making fun about, right? It's the one we make fun of. Everybody makes fun of this. But it's the drinking of the Borg. It's the alcohol. It's the alcohol intake. That's the first one. And that's the most obvious one. Is how much Dylan reportedly drank that day and night. That's the first over-exaggeration. Again, and it goes to that question I asked. Innocent people don't need to over-exaggerate what they're saying and what they're doing. They don't need to over-exaggerate because they're not guilty of anything. So they don't need to do that. Unless, however, unless you know them personally and you can speak to their personality. That's the only way. Okay, and we don't know their personalities, guys. Even it doesn't matter how many social media pictures we look at, we still don't know who they are. Personally, we don't. Unless somebody out there is friends with them, okay, and can prove it. All right, can prove it. But anyway, so we gotta keep that in mind. We don't know them personally, so everything's guesswork here about their personalities. We gotta be careful. When you're profiling, you're doing stuff like that. You gotta be very careful. Very, very. Oh, of course you know that. I'm not saying anything you don't know. But so keep that. Yep. Everything is with a grain of salt because we don't know them. We've never talked to them. So we don't know their personality, really. We can get that maybe from other people, but just a sense of it, right? A taste of it. But never the real picture unless we're sitting face to face with them, right? And talking to them. And then we can figure out what's what and what's not, right? But we can't do that. So, and by the way, they've been hidden ever since this happened. So I don't know. Well, I don't know. One of them graduated, right? I think. I don't know. It seemed like one of them just carried on with their life. I don't know. And I don't know what Dylan was doing, but whatever. Whatever. But anyway, the first one is the alcohol intake. It's exceptionally ridiculous, guys. You know that. But that's an over-exaggeration, right, of behavior. And that's a cover. The alcohol is always the cover in this. It's going to be the cover. Because Dylan tries to hide behind this in all of the things we've read about her statements. Alcohol, alcohol, alcohol. That's the cover. I'm going to use that as a cover. And guess what else I'm going to do? I'm going to over-exaggerate my use. Okay? That's another mistake here. That's another red flag from the prime. And again, I keep saying this, if this was a real investigation, that would stand out to you as an investigator. It would. because it's not possible to drink that much. It's just not. Now, unless again, she qualifies this somewhere in her interrogations, and maybe she does. Maybe at some point she clarifies just how much she drank that day and night. But we don't know that. We don't know that, so we're going with what we already know. So she may have qualified that. Keep that in mind. But still, her report though, this came out at some point though. So whether she corrected it or not, it's still an over-exaggeration though. That's the thing. Even if she corrects it, it's still, why are you over-exaggerating? It's not necessary here. We're trying to find out who unalived your friends, right? So here I am sitting here, and I'm telling you I'm drinking this ridiculous amount of alcohol. It doesn't make any sense, guys. Why would you do that? Another thing, though, we got to keep in mind about the Borg. I know the Borg is ridiculous. I know it is, but we have to also keep in mind that we don't know how much she actually drank of the Borg. We don't. She just said and drank a Borg. Now that could mean she drank the whole gallon, which, yeah, quite possible. I don't know. No, I don't know. You know what I'm saying, though? We don't know how much she actually drank of this Borg thing. So she could have only had a couple sips of it. Who knows? She said, I drank a Borg. Now, yeah, that implies drinking a whole gallon. But again, she wouldn't be standing, okay, if you're drinking this. But again, she could have only meant a few sips. So you got to keep that in mind. We don't know. But yeah, if she, I don't, God. It's so, again, it just goes to the absurdity. It does. Look, if it's true that she drank all of what she said she drank, and guys, I know we've been over this, and you've been over this. She would be in the hospital. I'm telling you, she would be in the hospital, no doubt, no doubt. All right, or at least not conscious. Okay, like for a while. Oh my God. I'm sitting there and I'm trying to think to myself. Okay, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of a 20-year-old, right? Like a 20-year-old female who weighs what? 110 pounds? I don't know. But not very much. And then I'm looking at the alcohol. I'm like, I'm trying to, gee, if I was a 20-year-old female who weighed 110 pounds, what would all that alcohol do to me? I don't know. Again, I'd probably be in the hospital. That's what I'm thinking. But no, we don't see that. Anyway, that's the first over-exaggeration. And then again, why? Why are you doing this? You don't need to over-exaggerate how much you drank unless you're trying to cover something up. Right? Right. Because this is not necessary. It's not necessary to go into, yeah, I drank 10 White Claws. You know what I mean? Not 10. But you know what I'm saying? I drank 5 White Claws, and then I drank a Borg, and then I had some champagne on top of that. Yada, yada, yada. Yada, yada, yada. Anyway, it's over-exaggerating, isn't it? Yes. That's number one, and that's the obvious. That's the obvious. All right. That's the first one. The second one speaks to the inaction. And this is exaggeration as well. It's just not inaction. But through the inaction, we see the over-exaggeration. Or we see the absurdity. It don't matter. Whatever. Over-exaggeration is a manifestation can be a manifestation, well, it is oftentimes, of absurdity. Okay? Anyway, inaction, but we still can have over-exaggeration. And that comes via, and you guys already know this again too, but this is the way I'm looking at it. The 8-hour time delay. That is an over-exaggeration. Right? Yes. Think about this. That's an exaggeration as well. Isn't it? Yes, it is. This should not exist, guys. This should not exist. But it does. It does. Again, people are not doing the right things here. And that's troublesome. And that's why people have all their theories about these two. And they should, because it shouldn't exist. It shouldn't. And again, There's no there's a wall. This is the wall. This is a this is a big wall. How do you and I have yet to find a way to get around this wall. This wall. How do you get around this? Something that shouldn't exist to begin with, which does, how do you get around it logically for it to make sense? And you can't. Can you? No. I can't. Can you? Can anybody rationally, and I know millions of people have thought about this. This is nothing new. But logically, reasonably, you can't get around this. You can't. You just can't. You can't. Logic is not going to help you here. It won't. In fact, it works against you a lot with this. Yeah. Okay. So that is number two. That is number two in this theme of over-exaggeration. Is why is there such a... Well, first of all, why does this exist when it shouldn't? This should not exist. Nope. But it does. Yes, it does. And so, of course, you're going to ask yourself, well, why? Why? And the only people that can speak to this that we know about, right, are the survivors. Or alleged. And I'm again, well, we already know the contrast. But the only two people who can answer this are the people in the house. And guess who they are? Well, we know who they are, right? The prime in my world, my opinion, speculation only. And of course, BF the Hobbit. So and what's frustrating is we don't know what their answers are to this. Right? We don't know how they would answer this question because nobody came out and told us. Oh, they said, all we got was they were so fucking scared. Remember all this crap. They were so scared and freaked out. Remember, they hid in that room for 8.5 hours. That's the only story we got. Ridiculous. We got one ridiculous story on top of another one. You know? It's like, how many pancakes of absurdity do you want to put on each other? You know? This is ridiculous to begin with, and then on top of that, we get an even more ridiculous story, just sandwiched on top. It's so stupid. Oh my, oh my. So yeah, number two, that 8.5 hour delay, that is the second over-exaggeration. Shouldn't exist. Yep, should not exist. Number three. Now, I'm going to show you this. And this comes from the judge. And again, it has to do with all the shenanigans that happened, supposedly, for what the prime said, all those shenanigans that happened up all through and including those events that took place in the 911 call. Again, I'll show you over-exaggeration. And this is coming from the judge. Yeah, it is. And also, the judge he doesn't know how to write a story properly. So it's confusing. But I'll show you. But keep in mind, over-exaggeration, 911, all those events around that, and what the judge wrote about it. Here, okay, I'm going to show you. Here we go. Now remember, guys, I don't know if the judge just doesn't know how to write a story or what. But the problem with this, and this is his order on the text, remember, motion regarding the text messages in the 911 call. And you've seen this before. I'm going to go over it again because it's an over-exaggeration. Now, again, this judge doesn't know how to write a story. Okay, so I don't know if he's trying to explain what happened during the 911 call or not. But we'll see, because then I think it becomes a little more clear. But listen, so this is what I want to start with. Now, this is the judge writing this. Okay, this is his novel. Okay, this is his flourish for the pen. This is before the 911 call. Remember that. So at 11:50, the prime called her friend, right, and asked her to come over. to check the house because she was scared. Okay? Yeah, we're already effed from the beginning, aren't we? Right? Remember. Then why didn't you call 911 earlier? Okay? Yeah, EA and her boyfriend, Hunter, remember, came over. All right? This is the judge. They met the Prime and the Hobbit at the bottom floor of the house. This is before the 911 call, guys. Remember that. Together, here we go. It's like the fellowship of the damned, right? Not the ring. The fellowship of the damned. Together, the Prime, the Hobbit, and the Hunter started to walk up the stairs to the second floor before they called 911. Yeah, when they reached the second floor, the Hunter went to the kitchen to grab a knife. Okay, yeah, right. Think about that. This is all over-exaggeration, guys, by the way. This is ridiculous. What we're reading is absolutely ridiculous. Think about it logically. That's all. Just think about it logically. So the Hunter went to the kitchen to grab a kitchen knife. My guess is the reason now, if he's not involved, I think the reason why that happened is because this one put it in his head that, hey, there may be still somebody in the house. Okay, that's all bullshit, and we know that. But he doesn't know that. So I could see that happening. I could see her making it seem like there may be still danger lurking in the house. So I could see that action. It doesn't make any sense. I realize that, right? But I'm trying to rationalize why this idiot would grab a knife in the kitchen. Okay, when there's nobody in the house except unalived people. Yeah, weird, real weird. Anyway, when he came back out, I guess. Wait. Okay, when he came back out of the kitchen, I guess. When he came back out of the kitchen, Dylan saw Xana again for a split second. And guess what she did? Nothing. Anyway, she didn't do anything. and now the judge the judge doesn't have a right. He doesn't know how to quote. Okay, this is a quote. This is the Prime talking. And I just started bawling because I thought she had just I don't even know. What? Is unalived? You know? I thought maybe she was just still drunk and all asleep. On the floor. Oh my God. Guys. You know what I'm going to do? Guys? I'm going to draw a cute little bunny nose on the screen for you. Right here. Cute little bunny nose for you. Yeah. That's how we think of our friends, right? This is how we think about our friends. It's scary, isn't it? It really is when you think about this. This is what your friend is thinking about you. When you're unalived, think about that. You're unalived, and this is what your friend is thinking. That's fucking scary. You know what? It's like I was saying, that's scary. That's scary. If your friend is truly thinking that, oh my God. Oh my God. You need better friends. I'm sorry. In this case, unfortunately, the other three got stuck with this, okay, and that one. And she doesn't get a pass either in this. She doesn't. We just know much more about DM because she's the Prime than we do the Hobbit. But the Hobbit doesn't get a pass on that either because she didn't do anything either. Okay? Nothing. So anyway. Yeah. This line on the floor. Oh, this is nice. Oh yeah, see, this is why, again, she doesn't get a pass either because she also saw Xana lying on the floor and did nothing. Oh my God. Great friends. Cute little bunny nose on this one too. Right in her face. Cute little bunny nose. That's how I think about my friends. I think of them as cute little bunnies lying on the floor. How weird. Think about that. I think about my friends as cute little bunnies just lying on the floor. It's weird. You know what? And that's scary. Anyway, the Hunter, told the Prime and the Hobbit to get out. from the Hobbit hole. No. Yeah. EA, who had started up the stairs, she wasn't even up there with Anna. She came in late, I guess, in the store. She came in late. She also turned around after Hunter, the great chivalrous Hunter, instructed her not to come any further. Oh, he's such a gentleman. Okay. They both went outside. They both went outside. What about did they both? What? See, again, the judge doesn't know how to write a story. God. Okay. They both went outside and left the Prime and the Hobbit inside the house, I guess. They're still in the house doing whatever, I guess. Because it should say they all then went outside. That's not what it says. And this is a judge writing this. And he doesn't know how to write a story. So this is a problem. Okay, big problem. But this is a judge in this case. Oh, my God. Yeah. Shortly afterwards, no, wait a minute. Shortly afterwards, Hunter exited the house. Again? I don't know. How many times did he exit the house? But I don't know. Oh my God. This is why I don't read this stuff. No. So Hunter exited the house again and told him to call 911. And the judge has such flowery language. He was pale white. Oh my God. And mentioned something about someone being unconscious. What? What are you talking about? Seriously, this is the judge. What are you talking about? I think that, you know what I think? I think the Prime wrote this. That's what I think. I think Dylan wrote all this up. Really? Oh my God. And this is when they finally called 911. At 11:56, the Hobbit calls 911 from her phone. Okay, blah, blah, blah. And guess what they do? They reenact the same scene that they just did. Now, again, is this the judge not knowing how to write something? Or is he actually saying that they repeated the same actions that they just did 5 minutes prior? What the fuck, guys? Oh my God. So anyway, over-exaggeration. Why am I doing the same thing over and over again? And why is the judge telling me this? This doesn't make any sense at all. And I wonder if anybody ever, like before he put this out, did he sit down and read it and be like, you know what? Now that I think about it, this doesn't make any sense. Maybe I should edit. I don't know. But yeah. And then, the 911 call, and then they're going through the whole charade over again. The whole charade. Oh my God. So anyway, over-exaggeration of behavior. And we even see that with the judge in his writing. Trying to explain this. Anyway, I hope you guys like that. I hope that made sense, that piece, right? It's over-exaggerated. It's completely absurd and ridiculous. I don't know. How else can you put it? Yep. So, yeah, over-exaggeration of behavior, over-exaggeration in words. Oh my God. Again, over-exaggeration in things we don't do. Again, what does this boil down to? It boils down to people not doing the right thing in the situation over and over and over again. Maybe that should have been the theme. I don't know, but no, it's over-exaggeration. It's over-exaggeration. It's trying to figure out how to explain something that doesn't make any sense, and then in the process of doing that, though, not only am I over-exaggerating, I'm muddying the waters even more. Is what I'm doing. Oh my God. But yeah. Well, number 4. Again, you already know this. This goes to Dylan's behavior, and that is tracking down Kaylee at the house. That's an overt behavior from her to get her back to that house. Again, that goes to coincidences too, because what are the odds of you agreeing to go to a party with someone you are avoiding that weekend? You get unalived. What are the odds of that? Okay? Pretty fucking slim, I would think. Yeah. Prime. Yeah. Prime. But anyway. So yeah, that one's a gimme. Her over-expression of or exaggeration of affection, love, trust, all that bullshit. I don't love you. Remember, I don't love you. You know why? Because you're a cute little bunny. That's why. You know what else that's called? Depersonalizing somebody. That's what it's called. Maybe that should have been the theme of this video. Depersonalization. Yeah. I'm not thinking of you like a person. No. I'm thinking of you like a little bunny. Depersonalizing. We see that a lot with people who unalive people. They depersonalize their victims, don't we? Yes. And sometimes it comes off really, really bad. Like, yeah, I know I'm crazy and I don't care, but sometimes it's really subtle. Subtle. And in this case, it's subtle. It's subtle. It's not overt. But when we hear little things like cute button noses and cute bunny noses and weird stuff like that, that to me, that's you're depersonalizing them. You got to think about what you're writing here. I don't care if you're trying to be cute. Well, you shouldn't be trying to be cute with this. You shouldn't. Look, and this goes to the memorial letters, okay? Also, what we should be hearing in those letters is, well, kind of what Bethany wrote to Maddie, something like that. But it should be consistent throughout. It should be heartfelt. It shouldn't be filled with stupid expressions like, oh, cute button nose and cute this and cute that. No, you're talking about. Listen, what is the context of this? And it's like they totally forgot the context of who they're writing to. Like depersonalization. Right? Right. Do you see that, guys? Does that make sense? So the theme is over-exaggeration ultimately. But within this theme too, we see a lot of depersonalization. I saw my friend lying on the floor how many times? And I didn't think of them as a person. I thought of them as something else. And because I thought of them as something else other than a person or my friend who may be in trouble, I didn't do anything. Yeah. You know why? Because I'm the prime, first of all. And I'm not looking at you as a person, right, Stanley? That's right, he's missing. Oops. Okay. Yeah. But if Stanley were here, he would say, that's right. Because when I was doing my thing in my day, I didn't look at people like people. I looked at them as some sort of character, maybe. I looked at them as some sort of object, maybe, right? Character, object, cartoon character, maybe. I don't know. But it wouldn't be a person to do what I'm going to do to you. No. The prime knows that. The prime knows that. And it was subtle, but it's a slip. It's a slip. Many slips with her in the documents. A lot of slips. And I may do that next. But she slips up again and again and again. And if this was, again, a real investigation, she, again, does not get away with this. She does not escape this. Nor does Bethany. I'm sorry. She doesn't escape it either. Nope. Because if you're seeing Xana lying on the floor, and the prime seeing Xana lying on the floor, and you don't do anything, what the fuck? Oh my God. Ridiculous. Yeah, that's why you're the prime, and that's why you're the Hobbit. Yep. You know what? And that's what's called depersonalization. But guess what? You deserve it. Yeah, you do. You fucking deserve it. In your case. Not with the others. Okay, you two definitely deserve it. Yeah, absolutely. You know why? Because you did the same thing to your friends. You did the exact same thing to your friends, didn't you? You depersonalized them. And you didn't think about them as your friends. No, you didn't think about them as somebody you loved because you didn't love them. You know why? Because you over-exaggerated your affection. Because it wasn't real. Your affection and love for your friends wasn't real. And if it was real, then this 8.5-hour time delay wouldn't exist, would it? No, it would not. It would not exist at all. And that's the truth, isn't it? Yes. Anyway, guys, I'm going to stop there. I hope you liked that one. I hope you can follow. I hope you followed that one. Okay. Remember, there's so many themes in this case, and I'm going to stop at the exaggeration part. But we could go on and on and on about it. But I hope those examples I gave you made sense. Anyway, we'll talk later. I hope you liked that one. Okay. All right. Bye, guys. Bye-bye.